एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निर्भव निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद जप आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच.
Can you explain what that means?
Sure.
It's the Mool Mantra. Ek Omkar,
There is only one God.
Satnam,
Eternal truth is His name.
Karta Purakh,
He is the creator.
Nirpau,
He is without fear.
Nirvair,
He is without hate.
Akal Moorat,
Immortal without form.
Ajuni,
Beyond birth and death.
Saipang,
He is the enlightener.
Gur Prasad.
He can be reached through the mercy and the grace of the true Guru.
What is that mantra called?
Mool Mantra.
Mool Mantra.
This is Classical Ideas with Greg Soden. Welcome to Classical Ideas. This is Greg Soden. Today's topic is an introduction to Sikhism, a topic I've been meaning to cover for a long, long time. Today's topic is a basic overview of the basic beliefs, practices, important people, and specific goals of the Sikh religion, practiced by around 25 million people worldwide, with its spiritual home in Amritsar in Northwestern India in the state of Punjab. Today's guests are my friends Harbaksh Singh and Chetan Hans. Both are versed in Sikhism, but both are just practitioners. Everything they say about the basics of Sikhism are derived solely from their own experiences as practitioners of Sikhism. We discussed some basics, the articles of Sikhism, Guru Nanak, the founding of Sikhism, and more. Also, I hope you enjoyed the unique introduction for this episode featuring the Mool Mantra and its translation by my friends Jasmine and Ranjana. I recently moved from Missouri to New York, and this interview was lost in the shuffle for a little bit. It was recorded a few months back while I still lived in Missouri, and I am excited to finally bring you an episode about Sikhism. So without further delay, here is my conversation about Sikhism with Harbaksh and Chetan. Welcome to Classical Ideas. I am here today with Harbaksh and Chetan. Thanks, guys, for coming on Classical Ideas. It means a lot.
Thank you.
I'm hoping that we can just kind of start off by having you both introduce yourselves, and you can talk about anything. You can talk about your religious background, your education, anything about yourselves.
Hello, Sat Shri Akal. So my name is Chetan Hans. So I was born in Punjab, and I spent most of my childhood and adulthood, of course, in Punjab, where I grew up learning learning about Sikhism from my family, from my friends, and also going to the gurdwaras, as we call the temples in Sikh, and also going to the temples. So then I moved to United States in 2003, and then I did my studies over here. So I must say that I'm not formally educated in Sikhism. So whatever I'll be saying, it's through my experiences and through my learning. So that's what I'd say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am Harbaksh Sangha. I was born a Sikh and am well versed with the Sikh way of life. I came to US in 2005. And I work as a physician, an administrator, and an educator.
Excellent. So, Sikhism is a religion that I'm really interested in learning more about myself, and I think that it'll be a really beneficial conversation that we'll have today as far as like informing other people about what Sikhism is, because I think that it's a very little understood religion in the West especially. So I'm curious if we can talk about just some about the basics of Sikhism. So what is Sikhism? What are some basic beliefs? What are the beliefs of the deities, important people, anything that springs to mind that you feel like people should know about the basics?
Okay. So Sikh means a lesson. Sikhi is learning, and the Sikhs are the seekers of truth, and the truth in our case is God. Sikhi is very much akin to mysticism. So if you look up the dictionary meaning of mysticism, it's the knowledge of spiritual truth gained by prayer or deep thought. And that's exactly what Sikhi is. So the beliefs of Sikhism are Nam Japo, which means meditate in the name of God, Kirat Karo, which is work hard and live an honest life, and Vanshako, which is share your bounty with others and serve others.
So, in addition to that, Sikhism, it presents a unique identity, and I think they include 5 articles which all these Sikhs, they are supposed to have. And in Punjabi, all these 5 things, they start with the letter K. The first is, of course, they have uncut hair as a gift of God. They have a small comb for the hair to keep it clean. They have a street bracelet, which signifies a Sikh's commitment to the ideals of their faith. And also they keep a sword with themselves, which is an indicator to resolve and commit to the justice. And finally, also they keep knee-length breeches, which keep there with a disciplined style of the Sikhism.
So who are some important people in Sikhism that people should know about?
So Sikhism was established by 10 gurus who were divine spiritual messengers of God. And they were, of course, enlightened souls. They were born of a period of around 250 years back in 1469 to 1708. So I must add one thing at this point. I think the Sikhism was originated at that time probably because of 2 reasons. One is to fight the enemies within ourselves, and also to fight the enemies or the invaders at that time, because India was invaded by Mughals at that time.
Who's like the founder, like the most common figure that we should associate with the beginnings of Sikhism?
That would be Guru Nanak Dev. He started the religion sometime in the late 15th and the early 16th century. The purpose of starting the religion was that he felt that the contemporary practice of the mainstream religions of that time, which were Islam and Hinduism, were not helping the common person. What was going on at the time was that there was polytheism, there was ritualism, asceticism, casteism, sexism was so prevalent, and he wanted to bring back the people back into a simpler form of religion, which would help them. So what he did was that when you look at his teachings, I find them to be an amalgam of a form of Islam called Sufism and a form of Hinduism called Bhakti movement. I think he borrowed from both and came up with And if you look at Sufism, for example, what it means is it's a symbol of purity and simplicity. And the Sufis, they used music, poetry, dance as a path of reaching God. Similarly, the Bhakti movement, which literally means devotion, we had saint poets who meditated in the name of God in order to be one with it. So Guru Nanak essentially took the good points of both these prevalent religions and combined it into Sikh principles.
So where's the main holy site that if somebody were to go on a trip in the world and they wanted to go into the heart of spiritual Sikhism, like the home of it, where would they go?
So the Sikh place of prayer or worship is called Gurudwara, which in literal language means a door to visit or to talk to the God. So in India, particularly in Punjab, there are many holy places which Sikh, they go regularly. But if I have to name one, that has to be Golden Temple in Amritsar. It's also called Shri Harmandir Sahib. It's a central religious place for the Sikhs. And basically it's a symbol of human brotherhood and equity. Everybody, irrespective of their caste or creed or religion or race, they can seek spiritual solace and religious fulfillment without any hindrance. It also represents a distinct identity, glory, and heritage of Sikhs.
So what are Sikhs striving for? What's the goal of Sikhism, in your view?
In my view, the goal then at the time of Guru Nanak, which was late 15th and early 16th century, and now is to live a simple, tolerant, and equitable life. And that message is very relevant today. These days, in my view, we're struggling to save the planet, and we are nowhere close to sharing our resources equitably amongst the human race. So Guru Nanak serves as a very good role model even today with his thoughts. They're very relevant today.
Go ahead.
So I want to add that, Sikhism basically it's a very practical religion, and it's a practical way of life. And like Harbaksh said in the beginning, that at the time when a religion, Sikh religion was originated, we had some issues with, of course, there were kind of the in Hindu religion there were some kind of malpractices going on, and also we had some kind of invasion by the Mughals. So I think at that time, our gurus, starting with Guru Nanak Dev and also 10th Guru Gobind Singh, they laid down the foundation of the Sikhism. And it's a very, basically the purpose of Sikhism was again to fight those invaders from within and also from the outside. And the main emphasis, I think, all our Sikh gurus they laid was on the practicality of Sikhism. It's a very simple way of life, but at the same time, it's very very practical.
So what are some of your favorite things about Sikhism? What do you think that it does particularly well as a religious practice?
It's very tolerant, very liberal, doesn't put in a lot of rules and rituals in place. And of course, over time, some of those have crept into the religious practice of the Sikhs. But those are some of my favorite things about Sikhism, where you're allowed to choose with an open mind what you want to follow.
Do you have any particular spiritual role models within Sikhism?
Guru Nanak would be my favorite.
Why is that?
Just whatever we have talked about so far. He looked at the contemporary religion of that time, said, well, this is not helping the people. Let's kind of go back to the basic principles of Hinduism, Islam, and find out what can help us, and rejected all the things which were not helping. So kept it very simple, was a smart person, showed a very practical way of living a simple and helpful life. So he continues to be my role model.
So obviously, 10 gurus, they are role model for every Sikh in this world. And also, I think, followed by that, there were many Sikh followers and warriors who laid down their life, not only to protect Sikhism, but also to protect the community in general. And also, they spend their whole life, and also they sacrifice their life, believing in what these 10 gurus they said. And one of those a prominent figure or warrior which I really, really admire is Baba Banda Bahadur. He was a follower of Guru Gobind Singh. So, and I was told by my family that we have some kind of lineage, descendant lineage to him. And also we were, our upbringing was kind of, we learned a lot about him. The way he was initially a very, let's say, I would say common person, but then I think because of some incident, he sacrifices the way he was living and he went to solace. But then there was one incident where he met Guru Gobind Singh over there, and then Guru Gobind Singh, again, I think the way Guru Gobind Singh talked to him was, again, try to realize him that his life is meant for a bigger cause and bigger things he has to do in his life. And then he came back to fighting for the Sikhism and fighting for the humanity. So that's some role model I think I like to follow and dedicate my life to.
Cool. So both of you have mentioned in your introductions that you came to the United States from India. So what is it like to be Sikh in the United States?
As far as the spiritual aspect of the religion is concerned, I think the principles that United States stands for, equality, freedom, enterprise, they fit in very well with Sikhism. So I fit right in.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with Harbaksh. I think the core values of Sikhism are basically honest living and dedicate your life not only to yourself but also to the community. And I think that does fit well, what United States stands for.
So are there any common misconceptions about Sikhism that you would both like to clarify for any listeners today?
Yes, I would like to mention that the traditional Sikh attire includes keeping uncut facial hair, which includes a beard, mustache, and tying a turban. So the traditional Sikhs who keep facial hair and tie a turban are sometimes by people who just don't know enough about them. They are profiled as intolerant and extremists and sometimes suffer violence. So there is a little bit of a misconception about the Sikhs, and the reason it happens is because we don't know enough about Sikhs. So I believe that whatever misconception there is, education can play a big role in removing that.
So yeah, again, like Harbaksh said, and it's on record, of course, after 9/11 we had some kind of issues with the racial attacks and other things. And of course, many Sikhs, they became a victim of this hate crime. because of their mistaken identity. However, I think I strongly believe that if there is any misconception, it's not about Sikhism. It's about the people who are either uneducated or who are ill-informed or misinformed about Sikhism. So again, I think when we talk about any religion, either it's Sikhism or Islam or Hinduism, they're about their own unique concept in their own way. So like I think that's why I think the thing you are doing with the podcast is an interesting thing, and it's very, very important that we are trying to inform the people how these religions and what's their unique identity is all about.
So you mentioned some challenges in your last statement about some discrimination, especially kind of in like the post 9/11 America that we live in today. What kind of challenges do Sikhs face in the modern world, whether it's here or elsewhere, that you've seen maybe in the media or in your own lives?
I think the challenges for the religion and the people practicing it is the same as any other organized religion. Over time, corrupt practices kind of creep in. Sikhism, I think one of the reasons for its success was that it was a relatively new religion and was formed on the principles of rejecting a lot of bad stuff which had crept into the religions of those times. For example, again, I mentioned ritualism, casteism, and other problems. And of course, what I have observed in the Sikh in Punjab in India is that sectarian politics. So politics based on where you bring the religion into it, basically pollute the religion, so to say, and kind of takes us away from the reason Guru Nanak began it all, to kind of improve on the existing religions of that time. So that would be the current challenge, to not let any corrupt practices creep into the religion.
So I think, me personally, and talking to my Sikh friends, like we mentioned earlier, we did face some kind of the challenges, and one of the thing we faced, or my Sikh friends faced, was issue with their turban. They had some incidents either because of their mistaken identity, or they were having some hard time getting into the jobs, particularly into the army and military, and also they've been frequently harassed at the airport and other sensitive issues. And there are a couple of other things which I mentioned in the beginning, that I grew up learning about Sikhism through my family, friends, and at school. But I think my kids, they are deprived of all these learning processes, and that's a challenge I think we, as coming from different countries, we face, that how do we keep up with our kids, keeping them updated about how the Sikhism or other religions are, and how they behave and how they act.
So what kind of individual problems is Sikhism trying to solve for people? So what does Sikhism encourage a practitioner to do that will make their lives better? Does that make sense?
I'll go back to the basic beliefs of Sikhism, which is you remember your God, you work, and you share. So those are the basic beliefs. So a simple, tolerant, and equitable life is what, and I think it's very relevant today.
One thing that I think that I kind of want to know more about is, what is the Sikh conception of God? Like, what does God mean to Sikhs? Because I know that that's something that I'm just personally curious about.
Sure. So I'll go back to the root chant that Jasmine and Ranjana recited at the very beginning. And so in that chant, Guru Nanak describes the God the way he sees it. So what he mentions is that there is one God, and he's the only truth. He's the creator, and the God is timeless, formless, and originless. And how do you find the God? With the help of a teacher or a guru.
So it's monotheistic?
It is monotheistic, yes.
Okay.
So coming back to your your original question about the major problems in the world today, again, what I believe is the Sikh religion or Sikh faith teaches us humanitarian principles of freedom, equality, and justice, and these are the basic fundamental principles of democracy, on which I think United States, India, and other democratic countries are built upon. So the second thing I think, Harbaksh was saying, in Sikhism, there's a big concept of miri and piri, which is basically, there are two things. One is about the materialistic life, and second is, of course, the spiritual life. And Sikhism, I think it's a unique in itself that it talk about a lot about. Not only that, I think it especially Guru Nanak Dev, he emphasized a lot on keeping a balance between the materialistic life and spiritual life. We do not have to give up anything to attain the spiritualism or to relate ourselves to the God.
So, from your perspectives as Sikhs in America who have also lived elsewhere in the world, what are some of the major problems in the world today, and how do you think Sikhism can, help humankind move forward in a positive manner?
The two most important problems, in my view, are the deterioration of our planet and the lack of sharing or equitable sharing of resources within the human race. And both those problems, I think, if you look at the Sikh way of life, which is a simple living and an equitable way of life where you share with others and you serve others, I think are very important messages if we are going to fix the two problems that I mentioned. So very relevant.
No, I agree with Harbaksh. I think he mentioned in the beginning that Sikhism started with the Bhakti movement, where I think maybe at that time or before that, maybe individualism was a prominent way of seeking some kind of self-realization. But I think our gurus, they realized back at that time that it's a society or the community. It's very important. It plays a bigger role in the life of an individual, and that's how I think the concept of Sangat, the congregation, and the concept of langar and this bhakti, they came into existence. So I think in present world, again, I think these are something which are burning issues, and I think Sikhism is a way of dealing with all these issues.
It makes me so happy whenever I hear of people concerned about the destruction and the degradation of our physical planet, because we only have one home as a species. So it's really inspiring whenever I hear people talk about how that disturbs them, even on a spiritual level. So I'm curious if you can talk about some of your spiritual goals for your life based on Sikh teachings, or teachings of any religion or whatever. But what do you hope to achieve spiritually for the rest of your life, thinking about the future?
I think if we can look past our daily needs and just think for the collective whole, be tolerant. One of the things that I have realized learning about others and learning about other religions is that they're all saying the same thing. They are basically leading you into a simple, pure life where you help each other out and live honestly. So and just like any other religion, Sikhism preaches the same, and I think it's a good message to live by.
So according to Sikhism, again, I believe, this is my personal belief, that the purpose of life is to enlighten ourselves. And once you are enlightened, it becomes your duty to enlighten others. Of course, I'm not even close to that, but I think if you ask me what's purpose of my life or what, I have achieved through Sikhism is to at least to be aware of myself and aware of the surroundings, and how can apply whatever teachings I was bestowed upon by my family and my teachers and my visits to Gurdwara. How can I spread that out?
I love what you just said about learning, because anybody who listens to this podcast or this show sees me learning in real time. All these conversations that I have on this show is me learning with a microphone, recording everything that I say. So I'm learning as we go. And so I think that what you just said about continuing to enlighten yourself and continuing to ask good questions, I think is just one of the most important things that I try to do on a day-to-day basis in my own life. So I completely agree. So why did you both agree to do this show? Why do you think it's important for people to learn about all religions?
I think my main aim is to, it all started with me going to the local high school, and talking about Sikhism, and listening to others, listening to children asking questions. And I realized at that time that it's so important to teach our kids about others, about other religions, about other cultures, so that they're tolerant. And I was so encouraged to find that the kids were listening very intently. They had very smart questions to ask of me, and I'm so hopeful of our kids and their future. We just need to make an effort for them to be educated about the others, the cultures, the religions, which are not us. So that's my aim in this.
So the way I think is that you just said before that through these kind of talks and podcasts and other social media, not only we share our thoughts, but we learn a lot. And honestly, as we are sitting here, I'm learning a lot about not only Sikhism but also about other religions. That's number one. Number two is, of course, like I said, that our kids, they are kind of deprived of some of these learnings which we underwent when I was at school or college, and it becomes our duty to kind of at least spread whatever knowledge we have and let them seek additional information they need to. And third thing, like you asked about other religions, is so I think if we have to relate about this concept of religion and how they came into existence, particularly about Sikhism, because we do know that this is one of the newest, one of the most practical and very just came into existence 500 years ago. It's like we have a basic concept of life. Either it was given by Hinduism or our ancient religions, but with the time, these religions, like we talk about iPhones and they're upgrade all the time, and these religions, I think they do need and some kind of upgrade from time to time. And this is how I seek into all these religions. Basically, I think if they teach one thing, that's about how to seek, how to live a pure and honest and committed life, and how to attach yourself to the God. And we do need all these upgrades from time to time, and Sikhism is, of course, it's kind of that update. Thank you so much.
Do either of you have any suggestions for things that people should read or look at if they wanted to know more? Like any good resources that spring to mind?
I would mention is it Hassan Minhaj?
Yeah.
His interview with Waris Ahluwalia.
Yeah, the actor. He was in Darjeeling Limited, right?
Right. And I would encourage people to watch it. It's very entertaining and it's very informative.
And you can just find that on YouTube. It's really easy to
Right.
get, and it's a good laugh.
Right.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on Classical Ideas and talking to me about Sikhism, and I appreciate your time and your willingness to talk to me today about some of your practices in your lives.
Thank you for having us over.
Thank you so much for making us part of this wonderful program. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Classical Ideas is produced by me, Greg Soden. Music on Classical Ideas is performed and composed by Derek Striving. You can find his music at www.wearewarmmusic.com. If you would like to support this show, please subscribe or leaving a rating in iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.